I call Tim McIndoe.
I move that the question be now put.
I call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. I also want to try and clarify some of the discussion points, because we've only had we've had the Minister's contribution, we had the contribution from Mr Young, and I feel as though we're sort of talking past each other a little bit here. I want to make it clear, first of all, we are not proposing that we go back from should to must. We understand the argument for why the word must in 166A2B and 166(2)C has been used rather than the word must, because this is about ensuring that the Minister, the government, has some flexibility. I think Jonathan Young used the example of, global financial crisis comes along, or, a significant disaster like the Canterbury earthquake or the Pike River mine that has a significant impact on ACC, and so we need flexibility to be in there. That's fine. We understand that. What we're saying, though, if you'll listen for a second, Jonathan Young, what we're saying, though, is that it does open up an issue which can be solved with Sue Moroney's SOP. The issue that gets opened up is if you go from saying that for instance, the levies derived for each account must meet the lifetime cost of claims, and changing that to should, or that if an account has a deficit of funds to meet the costs prescribed, or has an accumulated surplus funds, that the deficit or surplus should be corrected rather than must be corrected, that you open up the opportunity for the manipulation of the levies that has occurred in the past. So, on the one hand, totally understand the change being made. We appreciate that there's good reasons for making that change, but it opens up a problem which actually this bill intends to solve. So what we're saying is, make the change and support it with the changes to the definition of public good and public interest that Sue Moroney has offered. And that way we get the flexibility that the government is looking for, and we get the assurance that the public is looking for, that levies will be used strictly to ensure that ACC is appropriately funded to provide the compensation and treatment that people expect from it. And I've yet to hear an argument against that. I don't at this stage know which way the government is going to vote on Sue Moroney's SOP. I suspect I know what it is, but I haven't heard either from the Minister or from the Select Committee Chair. We've got numerous members of the Select Committee sitting opposite. They've taken time out of their day to come down to the House. I'd be quite keen to see one of them at least get up and actually tell us what their view is, whether they're for or against Sue Moroney's SOP, because I can't imagine why you'd be opposed to it, unless government wants to leave open the possibility that the levies can be manipulated. And everything that government has said is that that's not what they want. The purpose of introducing this legislation was to close down that loophole. So, is the government going to support Sue Moroney's SOP? If they are, that's fantastic. We'd welcome that. If they're not, we'd like to hear some constructive reasons why they think it's not necessary, or why they think it might be detrimental to the legislation. At the moment, as I say, what I've heard is sort of the two sides of the House kind of speaking past each other, and what I would like is some clarification around what people's views are on this. So I just want to address one other thing very quickly in this contribution, and that is that Jonathan Young said that there is volatility in the various accounts, and at the beginning of the year we saw a massive drop in some of the accounts. Well, actually what happened was for instance, the work account, which is the one that was 140% funded as at 31 December, at 31 January it had plummeted to 135% funded. And then by the 28th of February it was back up to 141% funded. So yes, it can move around we appreciate that it can move around, and that's why we agree that there should be a funding band, but it is still absolutely clear that the work account and arguably the earners account as well are both thoroughly overfunded because the levies that have been taken are too much, sir.
I call Andrew Bailey.